Hello, and welcome to group 3 of Kristen's TA's group. Here, we're going to be presenting on Jinya Ramen Bar and this chain of Japanese ramen restaurants that have started to pop up all over the US and examining the different intricacies of those things within this group project of ours. Our team is comprised of myself, Rebecca, Michelle, Remy, and Rosie. And we've all taken different sections, so bear with us as we have spliced this video together separately in order to create one cohesive video. My role in this was to create something of even a personal experience and just use some additive research to this. I used to work at Jinya Ramen Bar for a couple of years and was able to examine some of the brand's strengths, weaknesses, and some of the internal conflicts. So here's a list here of some of the strengths with the modern appeal, strong market presence, and just a pretty high popularity, especially among people who were doing things like Comic Cons and are just really enjoying Japanese culture in their hometowns and didn't have to travel so far to Japan to enjoy some authentic ramen. The back the concerns that even working in this environment, as is with many of the environments of working in just food in general, just in America, is just the workforce disparities. There was such a high, at least in my experience, a really uh, giant dichotomy of language issues within the workforce, as well as potentially some people who were treated better and were curated towards more of those of Asian descent. And those who had Asian descent in this workforce typically felt that they were kind of in a better spot than those who were Spanish speaking or even the English speaking front of house people as well, because they Japanese themed restaurant and Japanese people kind of, I alluded to more of that, like not an issue, but just the aesthetic of that restaurant. There was some bias issues as well, and just definitely some high turnover, especially with people who weren't of Asian descent within that particular couple of different places I had worked in different cities. There were some ethical considerations, the commodification of culture, and just it was whether or not it was actually authentically marketed to serve the real culture of Japan, and whether or not it was just highlighting the specific things that they wanted to market. Misaligning between branding and internal practices where the image and the actual practices were not aligned. And just there's a few recommendations of improvement here that I was able to see, which is just equitable hiring and fair wages, inclusive workplace and culture, and like emotional intelligence to be practiced among the culture of Jinya Ramen Bar, and just long-term sustainability with better policies, brand values, and ethical operational successes that were more focused on meeting the needs of the people and the culture of the people who are working there, and not just bringing in an income every day. My internal and external analysis just came to a similar conclusion. An authentic cultural, appropriation, just to make it more authentic to Japan and not necessarily marketed towards Americans, and highlighting specific Japanese parts of the experience that were good, but making it more of a real um, experience of what it actually means to be part of Japanese culture was more of the internal analysis, and authenticity analysis in the internal idea of this workforce disparity, language and pay gaps, favoritism, things like that were more on the internal side of things. And then the external side of this was appeal to, like, who they're bringing in. Their marketing was to mainly American customers. It wasn't necessarily a lot of Japanese or Asian people to come and feel like they were going back home, it was more of the highlight of the Japanese culture to Americans that made it so appealing, and became such a hot spot for a lot of people. There's a lot of seasonal demand and turnover rate, especially in the wintertime, as many of the pushes and the things that were going out the door were mainly targeted towards sales and not towards the authenticity of the food being just genuine, and really pushing their staff to sell during these seasonal demands that would come, especially in the wintertime. And typically they would have about a 30-minute to an hour like wait time, and then turnover, like the men or like the table turnover be about an hour, which is pretty common. It was a pretty quick paced restaurant, about like a $2 sign type of situation if you were to go onto Google. And then they just had a very like rotating list of menu options depending on the season, which I found really nice to have. I think it kept things in a very fresh sense, but it did bring a lot of pressure to the kitchen people that constantly had to learn new recipes, constantly had to order new foods and like get rid of old things. And in some of these more metropolitan areas, that tended to be a lot harder to do because there isn't a lot of storage space. So that became kind of an issue down the road, that I was starting to see. But as an external analysis, it kept the menu very fresh. So there was a positive to what was going on as well. So I'm going to hand this over to another one of my classmates here to continue in our macro and micro solutions portion.
Hi, my name is Michelle. Um, I will be doing the macro and micro level solutions and the conclusion for Jinya Ramen Bar. Rebecca used to work there, so we came up with the idea to do Jinya Ramen Bar. So here I go. Jinya Ramen Bar can improve its brand by being more open about its mix of traditions and modern Japanese flavors instead of trying to appear fully authentic. While the restaurant does a great job of creating a high quality dining experience, it could do more to acknowledge and celebrate the diverse team behind its success. One way to do this is by working with Japanese culture organizations, hosting community events, or even collaborating with Japanese chefs to provide more education about the cuisine. This would not only make the brand more credible, but also show genuine respect for Japanese culture rather than just using it as a selling point. Jinya should also rethink its marketing strategy by focusing on the quality of its ingredients, its dedication to flavorful dishes, and its unique dining atmosphere rather than trying to market itself as a fully traditional Japanese experience. By making these changes, Jinya can keep loyal customers while also appealing to social conscious diners who appreciate businesses that are honest and ethical. Being more transparent about its brand identity while also respecting the culture it represents will allow Jinya to grow successfully without misinterpreting itself. Micro level solutions. Jinya should also focus on improving workplace conditions by making sure all employees are treated fairly and have equal opportunities to grow within the company. Right now, there seems to be an imbalance in how the workers are treated, especially when it comes to wages and promotions. Kitchen staff, many of whom are Spanish speaking, often face challenges when communicating with management or advancing with their company. Providing language support, such as bilingual training, translation resources, or even language classes, could help bridge these gaps and create a more inclusive environment. Additionally, Jinya should implement diversity training to help reduce bias and favoritism in hiring and promotions. This would ensure that employees are judged based on their skills and contributions rather than their cultural background. Another way to improve retention is offering better wages and career advancement opportunities, which would motivate employees to stay with the company longer. If Jinya focuses on fair treatment, better communication, and employee development, it will not only create a stronger and more motivated workforce, but also improve its overall reputation as a company that values its employees just as much as its customers.
Hi, my name is Remy Nasser, and I will be doing the execution and implementation for Jinya's Ramen Bar. Starting off, we've heard about all the issues and problems that we saw in Jinya's Ramen Bar. So basically, I put together a project where the goal is basically to create a fair work environment, improve cultural representation, and ensure the brand message is just more transparent and authentic. So what I think is a great idea for the execution is we conduct fair play practices and a wage audit from months 1 to 3. So right off the bat, and then we will do DEI training, or also known as diversity, equity, and inclusion training, to get the workers more inclusive and working together. And then language support and training from months 3 to 6, to also get the employees more communicative together and just keep them on the same page. And then lastly, community partnerships with similar culture, just to keep its reputation, but also making connections with similar cultures of businesses. And that will be also from months 3 to 9. And then if you move on to the implementation and how we're going to do this, we're going to start with a career advancement program from months 4 to 10. And basically, this is just to keep the employees working and working towards something, basically. There's going to be like career opportunities and benefits, stuff like that. And then a marketing strategy from months 2 to 6, just to reorganize the way the company is run in a better way. And last two are transparency and labor practices, which would be near the end with months 5 to 8. And then employee retention initiatives, which, you know, has to be ongoing, and, it can't be just a certain time. I feel like we'd get complaints from the employees. But as a whole, this will look like this when I put it together. As you see from the beginning, it will start with fair pay, months 1 to 3. Then 2 to 6 is the DIY training. Months also 2 and 6 will do the marketing strategy revision. So this will get the company actually going and feeling the heat of, oh, this is going to be a good change. And then months 3 to 6 is the language support. I thought this was better towards months 3, because language, with having Mexicans or South Americans in the back as the chefs, and then the front would be Japanese hostesses, just, to say hello and welcome the people. I feel like just a little English, or even from each other's languages, would just boost morale and actually make people want to go to work. And then at the same time, also on months 3, they'll do community partnerships, and this will just build stronger ties with the community, like I said. And then the career advancement program, to allow employees to progress through the company, transparency in labor practices from months 5 to 8, and this basically ensures fair workplace policies are like always publicly highlighted. And lastly, what's ongoing is the employee retention, which is job satisfaction through competitive wages, benefits, and career development opportunities. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Rosie Castro, and I am doing the competitive advantage of our group project on Jinya Ramen Bar. Jinya Ramen Bar competitive advantage is due to various internal and external factors, such as focus advantages from customer preferences to customer experience strategy that comes from quality service and quality food. Another advantage is differentiation advantage from the strong brand reputation and recognition in the niche authentic Japanese ramen market. And finally, franchising advantage. Virginia is dominating in the competitive ramen market and expanding locations all over the US and other territories, with over 170 locations in the works.
Conclusion: Jinya Ramen Bar has successfully positioned itself as a leader in the ramen industry by offering a modern yet traditional Japanese dining experience. However, while the brand thrives externally by attracting American consumers fascinated with Japanese culture, its internal operation reveals inconsistencies in workplace equity, cultural representation, and ethical labor practices. The company's selective presents authenticity raises important concerns about how it markets itself versus how it functions behind the scenes. By addressing these issues, Jinya has an opportunity to not only improve its internal structure, but also reinforce its credibility as a brand that values both its employees and the culture it represents. At a macro level, Jinya should shift towards a more transparent approach by acknowledging its blend of tradition and contemporary influences rather than portraying itself as fully authentic, building partnerships with Japanese culture contemporary influences rather than portraying itself as fully authentic. Refining its market strategies and engaging in culture outreach can help the brand show genuine appreciation rather than simply profiting from cultural fascination on a micro level. The company must work towards a more inclusive and equitable work environment by ensuring fair wages, providing clear career advancement opportunities, and offered language support, and implementing diversity training to address internal biases. These changes will not only create stronger, more motivated workforces, but align Genia's internal policy with the values it promotes externally. By taking these steps, Genia can maintain its competitive edge while fostering a workplace and brand image built on authenticity, respect, and ethical responsibility. Ensuring both employees and customers feel valued will ultimately lead to long term success and sustainability in the industry. Thank you.